Hello, this is Coach Tim Campbell, and I'm your host for the Self-Made as a Myth, Make a Difference Together show, where we are talking with successful business owners to hear the journey of them building their business. And because we know that achieving success in business is not something that we can do on our own, we are taking time to recognize the folks that helped us to excel. Today, I'm excited to have actually, he's beyond a business owner. And we'll learn more about that in our interview today. Someone from Indiana who is our guest. He has been involved with the Boys and Girls Club for over 20 years and has helped them to raise over $10 million for clubs in Elkhart County. In his downtime, he enjoys spending time with his wife and his 4 kids. And he is most proud of the opportunity that he's been given and entrusted to spread the message of how business can be a force for good. I can't wait to hear more about that today. It's my pleasure to welcome Jason to the show. Hello, Jason.
Hey, Tim, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, hey, I'm excited to have you as well. I know there's lots that we're going to dig into, but let's start with having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit of your personal story, like where you were born and lived and your family and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town in central Michigan, Elma, Michigan. Went to a public high school there. I had a good upbringing. My grandparents all lived in town, just down the street, both of them. So had a lot of family. Swam, played golf growing up. Played with my brothers a lot. Went to school at Miami of Ohio. Tried out for the swim team for a year, and then got doing other things, and had a really good college experience. Miami was a great place. Met a lot of great people, and then just started my work career right after I graduated from Miami in '94.
Fantastic. And tell us a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I got married almost 20 years ago. I have a 19-year-old. I have a 15-year-old boy. I have 2 11-year-old boys. They're all really busy, as most families with 4 kids are. So I've got great kids. I'm blessed. They're healthy. They're fun to be around. I thankfully for me, I don't have to travel a ton. I traveled a lot in my younger days and travel a little bit now, but I'm home enough to be able to spend time with my kids, watch them grow up, be part of all their activities and sports, and they keep me a little bit younger too. So
Wonderful. Well, hey, Jason, is there a funny story that your family likes to tell about you that you'd be willing to share with us today?
Oh man, there's probably a lot. I'm probably the class clown in my family. They make fun of me the most, but I welded a bunch, and when I got out of college, they thought I'd go start doing something else, but I jumped in the factories, and I was welding shop. You can get really dirty, so I mean, I went from the college classroom to putting wet cloths over my eyes every night because I weld flash and just the environment and all that good stuff. So they poke fun at me for that every once in a while, but I could think of a whole host of other things if you give me enough time.
Tell us how the business came about, and at what point in time did you have the confidence that you could run your own business?
My grandpa started the business in '56. He didn't come from much. Was working on a roofing line after the war. Came back from World War II. Worked on the roofing line at Redmond Homes, and he got this idea in his head. He could start building roofs. That a metal roof wasn't that hard to make. He learned how to make it, made it. Visited the factories, found some money to start up a little roofing business, and that's how he got started in business. And then eventually tried a lot of other things down the road. He didn't go to college. He just kind of tried to figure it out on his own. But he's from that greatest generation where they just make it through life in success with sheer willpower, and built up a little bit of a business. And my dad took it over in '79, and my dad really put the business on solid footing, and kind of pared it down from what it was. My grandpa had bought a bunch of different businesses and pared it down just kind of like a metal fabrication business where we were back to roofs and building metal parts for manufactured housing chassis. And I came to the business in '94. Like I said, I worked on the ground floor for a couple of years and welded and got to understand kind of how a manufacturing business looks on the front lines of the business. Got a opportunity to run a facility out in Pennsylvania where I stumbled onto, into RVs. We were building manufactured housing product out there, but there were some potential customers out there that were building RVs, and just popped in their door one day and asked them if we could start building some products for them. And they were gracious enough to let us do that. And before I knew it, I was transferred back to Indiana to run another manufactured housing plant. And when I got transferred back here, I found out this was like the RV capital of the world. So it was an easy transition to really build up the business, because, our backyard was where, all the RV builders are, 85% of the RV builders in the country are right here. So long and short, just, we were acquired by a public business. My dad sold the company in '97. We were acquired by a public company, so we became public after that. The board and the leadership team at the public company was nice enough to, give me a shot at a pretty young age to run our business after my dad retired in 2003. And, we've been buying companies and growing organically and diversifying into different markets and doing a lot of cool stuff over the last 20 years. So
wonderful. Jason, tell us a little bit more about the business. What's the name? What do you guys do? How do you help people?
Yeah, so our business is LCI Industries. We're LCII in the New York Stock Exchange. We're about $5 billion, about 15,000 people, $5 billion in revenues, 15,000 people. We've got, about 140 locations worldwide. Most of our businesses are in North America, and a good chunk of them are in Northern Indiana. 50% of our business is RV, and the rest is, split up between marine. We've got some businesses in Europe. We do some business for buses and on and off highway vehicles. We do the manufactured housing business is still a little bit of a business for us, and anything marine. So those are kind of our market segments. It's I tell people all the time, it's anything that goes down the road that's not a car, we generally, are building parts for, or maybe looking at building parts for. So
wonderful. Now, in the introduction, I had mentioned the fact that one of the things you're proud of is being able to spread the message about how businesses can be a force for good. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, when I got into business, it was all about just, coming to work every day, trying to grow and gain market share and win at all costs, and grow our business that way. We got a lot of accolades for that. Our revenues grew significantly, our stock price grew significantly, our profits grew significantly, the overall size of our company grew significantly. But it wasn't until 2011 or 2012 kind of figured out that there was different way to win in business, and that was through an intense focus, an intentional focus on culture, leader development. And then ultimately for us, it was, how do you incorporate philanthropy and community service as part of what you do as a business. So really the message to other businesses, inside and outside our community has just been to, be lead by example and show other businesses that, business can look different than just winning at all costs and winning top line and winning the bottom line. It's how you do it. It's how you get there. And showing other businesses that how we treat people and how we take care of other people and how you really live an intentional culture, where team members will tell people around the business or around the community that, hey, this company really lives out their core values. They do what they say they're going to do. They take care of the community, and they care about their people. That's what I think the business community needs more than anything, is to figure out how to care about people. Because if we care about people, we send them home in a pretty good orientation for their family. And if we don't care about people at work, that's a long time for somebody to be, upset or down or miserable or anxious or stressed out because the business is treating them poorly. And that just plays out horribly, once they leave work and go home. So, we're just trying to send that message that business can be a force for good by just having great business culture and living out our values, not just putting them up on the wall, but, intentionally living out our values and being consistent to that. Figuring out how to do community impact events and serving inside the organization. Just showing businesses that that's possible.
So it sounds pretty, obvious when you say it out loud, but it's not. It is kind of counter how a lot of businesses think, especially, public owned companies who are, have to answer the shareholders. So what was
Right.
the impetus? What caused you to have this, this thinking and to implement this way of thinking and now be able to share it with other businesses?
Yeah, it was my faith in Jesus Christ, and then ultimately a lot of prayer. After doing business the way I was for 15 or so years, I started to kind of ask God what my purpose was, because just getting more revenues and higher stock price and growing a business was, while it was somewhat fulfilling, it didn't feel like purpose. So, the answer came through an ultimate meeting I had, after a lot of prayer with Bob Chapman. And Bob, told me his story, which was very similar. He had a very similar experience and how the light bulb clicked on. And then he just said he figured out that, hey, look, if we care about our team members in really extraordinary ways, and we live out our core values that we say matter, but how do you live that out day in and day out so that team members will look back and say, no, I've worked at a lot of places and they've had core values on the walls, but nobody's ever lived, up to their core values and held people accountable around the organization like this company does. And if you listen to Bob or watch Bob's Truly Human Leadership TED Talk, it's a 20-minute TED Talk that really, encapsulates, that everybody matters culture that he writes about in his book. Those are the things that really kind of flip the switch for me, is, seeing another manufacturing business that was, at the time they were 2 billion, 11,000 people. And that was about the same size we were. So I was like, if these guys can actually do it and he gets the results he says he gets, and, we can do the same. And really what the business part that clicked for me was, we were struggling with turnover at the time. And, what he explained to me really simply is like, hey, dummy, if you really, really care for your people and live out your core values, people will stay, because that's uncommon. People leave because companies talk about core values and don't do it. So they're like, I'm not going to stay with somebody who does the opposite of what they say they're going to do. I mean, that's you drive out a lot of good people in the organization that way. So what we found out is after we started doing that, our turnover reduced from 125% down to 30%. Wow. And it keeps getting a little bit better every year. And when you have that kind of momentum with retention, just the business gets this, really great momentum and quality and safety and efficiency and innovation. They all, get a lot better in the business when people tend to stick around. So, but too many business leaders, and I was one of them, you're always trying to sit at the end of the cycle to figure out how to tweak dials and, we got to do this and change this. And, and when all along, it's just like, hey, just make sure you've got the right people in the right spots, and you're living out your core values, and you've got a culture that, people would look to you and say, yeah, you guys do what you say you're going to do. You write these values on the wall. Yeah, I see that lived out, pretty consistently throughout the organization. Or you talk about your mission, and man, we talk about that on a regular basis. Or this is what you say you want out of your leaders, and we see those qualities in leaders all day long. So
I love it. A lot of good things that you just described, but one of the things that kind of jumped out at me that is, I think, also little countercultural is you are able to talk about your faith in Jesus, and you're a public owned company. And wow, that's pretty incredible that you've got the support of the board to be able to do that. Share a little bit more about that. It's just awesome.
yeah, well, I think today, with the inclusive environment that we live in, there's probably not ever been a better time for, company leaders or people that have faith to be able to express how they feel. So it doesn't mean that we do one thing or the other in our business, or we say, hey, you can't do this or you can do this. We have special groups in our business for a lot of different things. But yeah, I mean, the board's been supportive of our culture, since we launched it. Really, because like you said, it makes sense. It's like, it makes really good sense when you listen to it. It just takes a lot of time to execute.
Yes.
And the thing I'm thankful for my board about is that they were really patient in letting us, do the execution, because it does take a lot of time. I would say we ran over our team members to win at all costs for a lot of years. So they weren't so ready just to, when we said, hey, look, we're going to do this and we mean it. And, I'm going to do it. And I want you to follow me. As long as I do what I say I'm going to do, I want you to follow me. Don't throw stones. It was hard for people to do that in the beginning, because they saw the opposite behavior at a lot of leadership in our business for a lot of years. So, but now we don't have that problem, because we've been consistent with leadership. And look, our leader qualities and leaders that we have an expectation for, and our core values in the company that we expect out of all of our team members, are really good things for people to have, or for a company to help build into people and support with people. So, it's kind of hard for good people to not want to do that kind of stuff or be involved with an organization. So for me, I think it's our competitive advantage today. And I tell any company, the greatest thing about, executing an effective culture is that you create this competitive advantage that's better than any competitive advantage you have, because everybody competes on quality and price and, service and all the things that everybody always talks about when they talk about a sales pitch. But when you talk about your ability to retain people over the long term, that, and I would argue a step better is that you retain people and they're coming to the business with passion and energy every day. Not just, well, it's a job, it's a paycheck. I don't mind it here. So it's as good as good I have. So I might as well stay here. I don't know if I'd want that person's passion and energy versus somebody that really believes in the company's values and mission and what we're trying to do. I think we get a little bit extra, boost and lift out of our team members that feel that way versus, hey, it's just okay.
Yes, absolutely. We talk in our coaching program about that idea of, we call it the 16 cylinders. So you can have them show up with just their body, right, and their mind, and you can also enroll them with their spirit and their heart. Right? And when you get the heart and spirit, you get the 16 cylinders. If they just come with their mind and their body, they're only bringing about 6 cylinders.
I'm going to use that. I love it. That's great. That's a great way to describe it.
So, Jason, share a story where someone pushed you or inspired you that you could do it, even though maybe you didn't think that you could, and the impact that person had on you.
Yeah, my dad's been a big inspiration in my career. He's pushed me to do a lot of things that I didn't think I could do. But the one incident with Bob specifically, Bob Chapman, when he talked about, and he gave me a picture of what a great culture looks like after working on it for 15 years. The mountain just seemed, too tall to climb. But he said, hey, look, you gotta bite it off in chunks and do a little bit at a time. And you just have to be consistent and do what you say you're gonna. You have to, live the mission with integrity. And, it started with picking really solid core values, which we let our whole team do. I didn't come up with that stuff. You had 20 people come up with that and vote on it and say, look, so we can all go out and say, we put a stake in the ground and said, these are the important things. So it's not just me saying that they're important to me. So, it was a lot of that and a lot of, coming back to Bob and saying, hey, look, we're stuck, now what? What did you do? So, he was really helpful and inspirational also in helping us get through our cultural or get far enough into our cultural journey where we could, kind of pick up the pace on our own and just rely on our own momentum after a certain period of time. So
you've mentioned it a couple times that I love the idea of, it's not just the thing that's printed in the employee handbook or painted on the wall, but you're actually living it and you're holding each other accountable to it. That's truly the difference, right?
Yeah. And, there's studies done, as you know, I mean, you probably quote most of them, but, 88% of the people that, work for a company in America feel like they work for a company that doesn't care about them. I mean, what's that tell you about how good and consistent and effective work culture is today? It's just, it's not very common. Most people are just, like you said, they're putting it in the handbook and they're putting it on the wall. And that's as far as values seem to live in most companies. So,
Yeah. One of the things we ask folks that we meet with about their culture is, hey, can just take a minute and recite your company culture, right? And almost nobody can, right? What's your vision, or what's your mission, or what's your purpose, right? I know where to find it, or I know which wall it's painted on, but I couldn't
yeah.
actually tell you what it is.
Yeah. And I would tell you, most of our team members can, they can recite the core values. Our leaders know the leader qualities. I mean, because we talk about it every day, we start our 5-minute meetings in the morning with a culture win or a leadership moment or a core values moment where they have to, hey, we're going to call on somebody in their group and say, hey, just give us a core values moment from yesterday or the weekend or something. Just kick us off, start the meeting off positive. And,
Yes.
and again, that goes right to our frontline team members. It's not just for, executive and professional leaders around the business. So, and I think that's, manufacturing company, 97% of our team members are on the front lines of our business. They're in our plants making products. So if we don't get the message there and our frontline leaders don't understand the message, then it's really hard to say, hey, we've got an effective culture that runs throughout the whole company.
Jason, what's been your biggest learning as the leader, president, now CEO of the organization?
Yeah, I think that, man, there's a ton of learnings, but it's, it's getting that message, that the core values to the frontline team member, the men and women that are literally on the line assembling a window for us or a chassis welder. I underestimated the importance of me getting to the front lines on a regular basis. So I go every week and I do listening sessions with our frontline leaders all over the organization. A lot of them are in person. But the plants I can't get to that are outside of this area, I'll do those virtually. Just helping the light bulb click for, those frontline team members, that work isn't just, punching the clock and doing the work and go home. I mean, it can be a lot more than that. We can help people find their purpose and meaning at work. And I think that's the big learning for me through this whole 11-year journey that we've been on, is that we can help turn those light bulbs on for every human being in this company. And when we do turn those light bulbs on, their life gets better, their team's life gets better, the business gets better, their family life gets better, their kids' lives get better, their spouses' lives get better. I can't tell you how many times people have come home and said, because you guys really mean what you say, what you talk about all the time when it comes to core values and leadership and how you want us to, if we're leaders, you want us to lead better and you give us the roadmap to do that. If we're not leaders, you just want us to lead ourselves better and we can still use those leadership qualities that we talk about all the time. They come back all the time and say, yeah, I'm a better dad. I'm a better mom. I'm a better spouse, and those kinds of things are like, it doesn't get better than that. That's the best thing we can do as a business, is help improve people's lives, because when their lives improve, like I said, they're likely to come back and give more to the business, because most people are thankful for that. And most people haven't had that experience at another business where they've got that to compare it to. Most of them, they were beat down, a lot of them were yelled at. I mean, when I ask every listening session, hey, who's ever worked for a bad boss or worked in a company that's had a horrible culture? 75% of the hands in the room goes up. But when they compare that to their experience here, they tend to say, I'm not leaving a company like this. I've been to 6 or 7 or 8 other ones and left because it was horrible. I'm not leaving this company. And I think that, again, that just gives us that competitive advantage, but I know we're improving lives in the process, and that's better than, hitting record sales numbers or record stock prices or anything like that. I'm not going to remember those things, right? When I'm on my deathbed. I'm going to remember, this box of letters I've got next to me where people just, tell me how much they appreciate what we've done in their lives, because it's helped them change their lives in a more positive direction.
What an incredible ripple effect that that you guys are able to have because of all the people that you're touching. That's awesome. And I love
Yeah.
what you said too about, the what you're going to remember, and oh, by the way, there's also a huge ROI on it, because you quoted your turnover decreasing from 125 to or somewhere around 30, I think
30.
you said. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a true ROI as well. So the shareholders
Wow.
are happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not easy to put the exact dollar amount on, but even a conservative guess on that dollar amount would tell you, hey, you ought to be spending a lot of resources working on that.
Yeah. Jason, we know that business success doesn't happen in isolation. So tell us about one of the biggest challenges you faced during the years, and maybe a fellow business owner or leader who came alongside you helped you through that.
Yeah, I mean, I learned later in my career. People ask all the time, what do you wish you would have done, earlier in your career? And what I wish I would have done, kind of piggybacking on your question, is I wish I just would have brought other people into my circle that had been where I wanted to go. I would have, not learned as many painful lessons, and I've had a lot of people inside and outside the industry that have been, after, maybe I turned 35 when I really started listening to people. I brought several people that were 10, 15 years older than me that had been there, and just, did a lot of listening and question asking. And that's, it helped me, avoid a lot of pitfalls. It helped me, sharpen kind of my perspective, and really, hone in on what really mattered. I had a lot of, things I could spend time in my position, but, the more I found, I narrowed that down to certain things, and, move other great people around this business to do some of the other things, and, put people in the right spots. It made all the difference in the world. And our business grew, has grown a few billion in the last, 4 years. So, it took us 55 years just to hit our first billion. So, but I've had a lot of people, I've had a lot of mentors that I've intentionally sought out and asked a lot of questions to, because it just helps you skip the learning curve in a lot of cases.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. If I asked you to pick three of those folks who have been most helpful and you're most grateful for the business success that you've gotten from their help, who are those three people and how they help you?
Yeah. So, again, my dad, for one.
What's your dad's name?
Huh?
What's his name? Your dad's name?
Oh, Doug Lippert.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah. He was really patient with me in my 20s when, we were both in the business, and I was kind of going off on a tangent, trying to create some new opportunities for the company. And man, I was 24, and, I'm just trying to picture my kid that's going to, be 24 at some point in time. Would I let him do some of the things my dad let me do? Probably not a chance. So, I really appreciate the fact that my dad took a lot of heat in the organization, because there was a lot of people around him that said, what are you doing?
Sure.
Like, this kid's trying to spend all the money that we've worked hard to put in the bank. And, we don't understand the business or the business strategy. So, him for one. Certainly Bob Chapman, I always throw him in that category. He's been a great mentor on the culture side specifically, and just helping us figure out the journey. Where it took him maybe a decade to get to a certain spot, he probably helped us really skip that learning curve, because he had a lot of learnings.
Yeah.
So, he was super important. And he just has been super gracious with his time. So, those people that have met Bob through different channels, he's just so gracious with his time. And he didn't have to give me the time he's given me over the last decade, but he's been, super awesome, and help us, growing our culture journey a lot faster. The third one, man, it's a really tough one for me to pick. I've got, guys in the industry, Ron Fennick, Doug Getter, Bob Martin, Don Clark, guys that have run businesses that are just a little bit older than me, but they've all helped me a ton. And I've got, my mom would certainly fit in there. I mean, she instilled values and a great upbringing in me, and spent most of when my dad was away, building the business. My mom was building the character that I have. So she's responsible for that. I could give you a list of 10 more names that were super influential, but those are some of them.
Fantastic. Thank you. I know that's always tough to narrow it down to a few. So, Jason, as you think about the next 3 to 5 years, what are the biggest challenges that you see that you're going to face in getting to your goals, and who are the types of people you're going to need to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, there's a lot of challenges for us. I just turned 50 here not too long ago. So that's when my dad retired. I remember the day like it was yesterday. So moving into these continued phases of organizational structure, and not only what our organizational structure looks like as we continue to grow, but also who's sitting in those organizational seats as we continue to grow and develop people. So and that's where I spend a lot of my time is there's the organizational development and the structure, and but we've got certain markets we live in. We're not, as I've told our investors, we're not interested in going off and creating all these different legs of the stool. We've got some really good markets with really great customers and a lot of opportunities in those markets today. So we're going to continue to, and the longer we've been around, the more momentum we have as a business, we just get better for our customers. So, we continue to grow organically and find good acquisition opportunities. We've done 75 since I've been with the business for the last 29 years. So, but innovation I think is really, really key to any business, and that's just not just product innovation, but it's process innovation. It's innovating culture like we have. It's reinventing every part of the business you can, because if you don't, it just gets stale and you look like every other business out there. People development is really huge. Our focus on culture is really huge. We want to spend a part of our time and a piece of our time. We've got a leadership academy today that we use to specifically help, other businesses figure out what Bob helped us figure out with culture. So we want to be that part of the ripple that keeps extending things to other businesses. We want to help them do culture better. We want to help them do leadership development better. We want to help them do philanthropy and community impact better. And we can help them skip steps and get there faster because we've done it. And then, the world's getting trickier, right? There's just a lot of, I think about the issues, back before, 2000. They pale in comparison to the, just the economic and the social issues we have today. So it's just trickier running a business. It was always hard to run a business, as you know, but it's so much harder today. Yeah. And, it comes down to finding the right people to bring the organizations that can get their arms around all this. So again, I think that's what the leaders really need to spend time doing, is finding people that have, the right passion, the right energy. And then once you get them here, it's making sure they get in the right spot, because you can get great people, put them in the wrong spot, and then you might still be treading water. Yes. Or not making as much progress as what you think. So, those are some of the issues. I look at growth and say, hey, look, if we get the right people, we have the right business strategy, we take care of our quality and our customer experience and our innovation and culture and leadership, the pillars of our business, we'll continue to grow. I don't worry about, trying to, work too hard at that. If we do the right things and we keep doing what got us here and execute our business strategy, we'll continue to grow our company.
Love it. So last question, Jason. Jim Rohn, awesome business guru, says that we become the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So as you reflect on that quote, what advice do you have for folks who are trying to do it on their own, who think that they don't need to surround themselves with good people, or they shouldn't ask for help.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna, it's just gonna, you may get there. You may have a good business strategy and a good plan, good products, and even some good people. But if you don't surround yourself with the right people and the right mentors, because you only learn by asking questions. And if you're the one that has all the answers all the time, you're gonna get there a lot slower. And I'm living proof of that. We could have gotten a lot further, a lot faster had I started doing some of those things way back when. And then it just becomes a culture, and part of the culture in your organization is, everybody's got to be a learner. If 15,000 people are learning, or 15,000 people, one of the things that's big for us is just, it was an epiphany we had a couple of years ago, but hey, look, we do all this executive leadership planning and coaching with all of our executive people. We do it with our frontline leadership, but how about if everybody has, a personal and professional growth plan, all 15,000 people,
Right.
I think that company version would be way better than the one that we're not even working on it, or we're just, a part of the executives or top level leadership team have personal and professional growth plans. So if everybody's growing and developing, we get further faster. And that kind of speaks to what you just said. It's like, you got to get people around you. You got to be a coach. You got to be a coach, and coaches are, notoriously good listeners. So if you want to learn and grow and develop your business, you got to be willing to grow and develop yourself. And you can't do that by talking all the time and barking orders and then, you got to get the right people. So you can be surrounded by people that are good, but you want to look for people to surround yourself with that you think are as good or better, or where you want to be. And that changes the game. I tell my kids all the time, it's, we almost every night before bed, we have the Eagles and Turkeys conversation. So it's like, if you guys want to be great someday, you got to be hanging with Eagles, and, you can't be hanging around with the Turkeys, because they'll drag you down.
Yeah.
Same thing you said with being surrounded by, you're the average of the five. You want those five to be Eagles. You want those five to be, maybe have some qualities and things that you don't have that you aspire to have.
Yeah.
That's what you ought to be looking for, because that statement's totally true.
You said it already, but I'll repeat it, is we don't want to be the smartest person in the room, because then we're not learning from anyone. So
That's right.
we may have to change the people that we're hanging out with, so that
Yeah.
we have smarter people in the room to learn from.
Yeah. And newsflash, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, that's going to be limiting to your growth and success. That's just, you can't think like that.
Jason, it sounds like you've been blessed with some incredible people who have helped you along your journey. If they were all on the show here today, what would you want to say to them?
Oh man, I mean, I wouldn't be here without them, because not only do they do most of the heavy lifting, they're incredible encouragers. Business is tough, and you need people to lift you up, because it's impossible to be, at the peaks all the time, and it's impossible to be, everything going great all the time, or everything being positive all the time. So, I would just thank them for being incredible supporters, incredible doers, incredible encouragers. And ultimately, they're the ones that, are closer to, being boots on the ground, and they're the ones that are moving this great business as a force for good mission along. You need lots of people to do that, not just one person. So it really helps to have the top person to support that message, but man, the execution happens on the front lines of the business. And we are all, in my whole team, we're in the plants on a regular basis, making sure that, the people understand what that message means. You can't just tell them once. You know how communication works. You can't just go and tell them once, or put it in an email, or even talk about it twice or three times. You have to beat the drum. You have to be consistent. You have to challenge people. You have to ask them questions and listen, so that that they're getting it. And so that they're asking you questions back, and they're learning. That none of that would happen without an amazing team. And I've been blessed with a great staff of people that, they bring passion and energy to work every day, and it makes a difference.
Jason, I love your story. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today.
Hey, Tim, my goal is, to do some of these here and there and tell the story. So, maybe inspire some people. But most importantly, it gets the message out that there is a different way to do culture and business, and that it can have a profound impact on, not only the business, but people's lives and ultimately the lives of their families and kids. And I just don't think we're wired and we're taught in the educational system to think like that. So we got to get that message out there so people know that there can be a new normal, and it can be world changing. It can be community changing. We just need to execute on that.
Yes,
So,
amen to that. And for everyone listening that are wondering about the ROI, remember what Jason said earlier, a few billion increase in sales over the last few years as a result of all these changes. So if anyone wants to question the ROI, I think that it's pretty black and white.
yeah. Hey, and Tim, people say all the time, well, how do you know it's that? Well, what I can say is that if we had 120% turnover, I can tell you we couldn't have grown, 800 million to $1 billion a year for, over the course of 3 or 4 or 5 years. I mean, you just can't do that. You can't bring that many people into the organization,
Right.
hire, recruit, train, only to watch them walk out the door again. You just wouldn't be able to build product effectively enough and with good enough quality to be able to sustain that kind of growth.
Right.
So,
yeah. And what you shared earlier too is, hey, you did it the old way, right? And you saw what the results of that were, and now you're doing it the new way, and the results are significantly better. So,
right.
So awesome job, Jason. I thank you so much for sharing your story with the audience. It's just so inspiring. So, and thanks for all the extra that you do to give back and pay it forward. I love it.
Yeah. And if there's any listeners out there that want to reach out to me, I'm easy to get a hold of on LinkedIn, and I'm willing to share a story and help any way I can, because the more businesses that get this, the better the world gets. So
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. To everyone who tuned in, thanks for listening to the Self-Made is a Myth show with your host, Coach Tim Campsell. Be sure to help spread the movement by liking the show and mentioning it on your social media. And to join our movement, go to bemadtogether.com. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Make sure to pay it forward, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.
Thanks.